Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report, and we have Karen, and of course we should call it Mountain Red Velvet to build a better you product. And I take my Mountain Red Velvet every day, and I can tell you, when you do, your body's cells, if you could listen to your cells quick, but remember now, their voice is very low in terms of intensity, so you have to get your ear very close, like subatomic close to them. They'd be saying, thanks, I got the building blocks to make a better liver, muscle, skin, hair. In fact, you're going to look great in 2 months because you're taking this. You're actually going to move with less creakiness. Your spinal arthritis, which has been chewing away at your joints, guess what? We can rebuild those joints to make them actually a lot more acceptable than they were going. And a lot of people think that degeneration is just a one-way street. You know, aging is one way. It's not true. Aging is bidirectional. And the direction is you can go down the pathway of, hey, let's fall apart and hurt on the way, or let's not do that. Let's rebuild and play another day. How's that? Even rhymes.
Absolutely. And as you say, Dr. Bill, there is no better product to take when someone decides enough is enough. My body is hurting. I'm getting older. It hurts when I go to stand up. I'm not getting a good sleep because I have pain. And this is the product that they can take that is 100% natural, just as nature intended it to be, packed with 396 different active ingredients that genuinely rebuild the body. It is building a better you with Mountain Red Deer Velvet.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some of the stories that we hear from people that are taking Mountain Red Velvet are pretty remarkable. We're talking about 80-year-olds that are saying, hey, I'm out and moving around now. People have had injuries or surgery. Hey, I'm finally healing. People have had chronic pain syndromes. We tell with people, it doesn't matter what condition you have, whether it's hair loss in your scalp, whether it's recovery from a burn, whether it's recovery from radiation, cerebritis, or radiation from breast cancer to your chest. You're trying to recover and build the blood vessels and the skin, the bone, etc. It doesn't matter if it's a chronic fatigue syndrome where your cells and tissues basically lack energy and don't have the energy to even rebuild the tissue correctly. It doesn't matter if it's a connective tissue problem you've had, say, let's say a graft from one of your own tendons to try to repair, say, ACL. You're going to heal much faster if you're taking Mountain Red Velvet. It doesn't matter if you've got wrinkles and your hairdresser says, oh, you should consider plastic surgery. How about cellular plastic surgery, which is to rebuild the tissues from the inside? Then if you do plastics, it's going to actually work better. In fact, it was interesting. I was recently talking to a plastic surgeon, and he's all excited about the idea of using Mountain Red Velvet. You mean if they give this, plus we have our other nutraceuticals that work with it, like Collagen Max, my patients are going to look a lot better. And I'm going to look better as a surgeon because I'm dealing with healthier tissues that are going to heal better. Because if you deal with tissues that are really draggy, somebody's been smoking 25 years, they have 10 cups of coffee, their diet is crappy, they have poor fatty acid concentrations, they don't digest their food. What do you expect to rebuild in terms of skin? You're pulling up this draggy skin. It's like pulling up a very saggy tent around your face and saying, hey, does it look better? Thinking, not necessarily.
And that's it. It's all about building from the inside out. And that's what Mountain Red Deer Velvet does, is that it heals the body from the inside. There is no other capsule that you can take that has 396 active natural ingredients. This has your amino acids, your lipids, as you say, packed with collagen, your IGF growth factors, your lipids that we need on a daily basis. You cannot get what is inside this capsule, no matter what your diet is. The best organic diet does not contain all of these micronutrients that are inside this capsule that you can take today to build a better you.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one of the things that we find when people start taking Mountain Red Velvet is the first thing is they notice how fast it works. They start saying, hey, my creakiness or my snapping of my joints or my carpal tunnel syndromes showing signs of improvement within, say, 72 hours to 4 to 5 days, which is unusual. And we usually tell them to take it along with some of our other nutraceuticals, too, like Inflamax and Collagen Max. But the central thing is you need the building blocks. And no matter how good your organic diet is, how alkalinized you are, how much you, quote, reduce inflammation, it's not just a process of reducing inflammation. You have to rebuild tissue. A lot of people don't realize that the body is very intelligent. the primary trigger, for example, for the release of slow reactive substance of anaphylaxis, local interleukins and cytokines at what's called the neurodermal junction. These are called Langerhans junctions, and I actually discovered it. Its application. It was actually discovered by the same gentleman that discovered Langerhans complexes in the pancreas that actually create insulin. And of course, the research by Banting and Best, the Log Dog Lab outside of the University of McGill in Montreal, Canada, identified that insulin was being made in your pancreas. Well, the same pathologist discovered the Langerhans epidermal junction in the skin, and in my 1986 patent, I discovered that's a primary pain gate. It turns out that if you don't have the right components to rebuild a tissue, those fragments of the components that are not complete trigger pain. In other words, pain is triggered when the tissue is not healed. In other words, if you heal the tissue, if you fix the problem, the body says, intelligently, hey, I don't need to hurt anymore. I don't need to splint this organ because it's broken or the connective tissues are torn, so if they move it anymore, it's just going to snap. And that's what the body's thinking. I'm going to splint it so the person that has this pain won't move this sore knee, foot, ankle, joint, whatever, because it's ready to snap. Okay? That's what your body's thinking, okay, teleologically. And when you repair the process and you get rid of these fragments of, unrepaired molecules because you don't have all the components necessary to heal, the body says, hey, I don't need to hurt anymore. I'll shut off the autonomic input, the sensory input to the dorsal root ganglion. That's the first, the second pain gate is the DRG at the spinal root level. Then it goes up the spinal thalamic tract to the areas of the parietal cortex in the brain and the subthalamic nuclei. So there's 7 gates actually for your pain. 7 pain gates. The first one is actually dependent on having an incomplete set of components to rebuild you. And if you have the complete components, your body says, hey, I can rebuild you. So, hey, guess what? Bonus, you don't have to hurt anymore. Doesn't matter if it's ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, a real bad hip pointer because you get smacked in a contact sport like football. The body's saying, hey, guess what? I can heal that. I can heal that so you don't need to hurt so much more. Let's say someone has a partially torn meniscus. Maybe the body will just tack it down and heal itself without having to go in with an orthopedic surgeon to surgically kind of nail that meniscus down so it doesn't trap in the intercondylar notch. Well, guess what? You'd be much better off if you were to take natural molecules like our Inflamex and Mountain Red Velvet than to rush into the orthopedic surgeon then to try to convince the knucklehead not to either remove your meniscus or to do much more advanced surgery, which he can get paid a lot more, and he can get a whole new boat rather than just kind of repainting his old boat. You have to understand that. Remember now, every time the surgeon opens you up, in the operating room, you can hear the sound like a cash register, cha-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
And with the Mountain Red Deer Velvet, because you're healing from the inside, and because it's 100% natural, the body just can use this. And it knows that that's what it's needed to repair and rebuild. And that's what we want to do naturally. Just as nature intended, this is the product. It can change people's health. I know you've got it available on your website, Dr. Bill. They can get that today.
Yes, they most definitely can. The thing that I find amazing about Mountain Red Velvet is how quickly it works, and how it works in conjunction with other nutraceuticals like Tendon Bender, Joint Performance, Collagen Max. And when you take all these together, it's like a miracle. You can have people that have had pain for 20 years, old injuries that just refuse to heal. They've done everything: deep massage, chiropractic, osteopathy, sclerotherapy, prolotherapy, prolozone therapy, everything you can imagine. Surgeons gone in and messed around trying to pull junk in the joints. They've had back surgery, which is really bad because the more back surgery you have, the more chance you have a spinal root leak.
Yes.
And guess what? They just start taking the Mountain Red Velvet, and the body says, hey, I can heal this. The body's intelligent if you supply it with the building blocks. To build a better you, Mountain Red Velvet, get it today. Welcome back, and we have joining us again, Ron, Lumen Photon. We have a number of energetic technologies, and by the way, we have access to all of them. One of my favorite is Lumen. In fact, I actually have my Lumen machine hooked up right at my studio desk, so I can slap it on a sore body part because I overdid it on one part or another. And I'm really pushing it this summer. I use my vibrational platform machine. I'm getting 30 to 50 minutes plus on that alone, besides swimming and running or walking, speed walking on the treadmill. And I can tell you, there's nothing like Lumen. It literally talks to your cells. It is not heating pad, it is light therapy. And the three categories it does is, number one, it's going to turn off pain. Number two, it's going to detoxify. So if you're trying to detoxify your liver, even get rid of stones from your gallbladder, kidneys. It's also going to stimulate gene expression besides the detoxification. So if you're trying to lower plasminogen activator inhibitor or C-reactive protein, or you can actually just slap this over your kidneys and it'll reduce CRP. You can put it over your heart if you're trying to regenerate muscles. If you're trying to put it over your brain, if you've got someone with autism, schizophrenia, Asperger syndrome, Down syndrome with a gene dosage effect and upregulation of microglial peroxynitrate radical. Literally anything you want. Carpal tunnel syndrome, slap it over those areas. Interscapular pain because of rhomboid tendinitis or infrascapular tendinitis, no problem. Excessive exercise doing XYZ or contact sports. Peripheral neuropathy, diabetic, toxic neuropathy, compression injury, post-op recovery. Every operating room, plastic surgery, orthopedics, general surgery, should have these machines literally lined up on a special cabinet on the wall. And when the patient comes out, you don't say, well, how is your morphine pump working? No. How about how are you feeling now that we turned on your Lumen Photon post-op? And the patient would say, I feel great, I'm not spaced out of my mind, and I think I'm still on planet Earth. That's a good idea, isn't it? I mean, I really don't understand why people don't realize just how remarkable this is. Within 10, 15 minutes, even if you have chronic pain, you can take a pain of 8 or 9 down to 2 or 3 with Lumen. And then when you're trying to detoxify, like someone's liver, let's say they got hepatitis, or they've got free heavy metals that are affecting their heart, or they've got, increased intraocular pressure, so we put it up at setting number 7, or they've got retinopathy, or they've got a concussion, their brain is swelling because they got bonked on the head. And of course, what happens to the physical trauma releases and activates enzymes to cause leakiness of the blood-brain barrier, increased intracranial pressure, and activation of microglial free radicals. So you take our nutraceuticals, you zap yourself with the Lumen Photon, and voila, decreased intracranial pressure. I think even neurointensive care units should have a Lumen pad, so the patient, once they're brought in there, whether they're even awake or put into a functional coma, because we'll do this when people have very bad IC intracranial hypertension, you put them in a functional coma, they should reduce the intracranial pressure by simply doing lumening right through their head. I really see lots of visions, just like when I talk about hyperbaric oxygen. I see hyperbaric cafes when you come back from the airport, I see hyperbaric ambulances and air ambulances for the Navy. I see hyperbarics, I see the use of Lumen Photon therapy to perfuse tissues and to keep them from going bad. When you lower the temperature, you can increase the redox and make tissue survive longer if you're doing an organ transplant. I really think it's got a lot of applications. We have no idea, because light literally is the force of life. And it turns on and off the genes. I think it even turns off the genes for cancer. I really think that Lumen, if someone has a cancer, like we've had people with cancer therapy, I tell people, Lumen that sucker. If you've got lung cancer or liver cancer and you're taking our nutraceuticals, you're taking, say, Brzezinski's gene-based drug therapy and antineoplasms, or you're taking vitamin B17 from a Mexico clinic or other nutraceuticals to help your system, like our NutriDefense, zap it with Lumen, the primary and the secondaries. And it's going to help your body fight the cancer.
There are two ways that does this. This is Rod here. It actually brings, when you use it over there, it increases the circulation in the area, and it brings more oxygen in, and also alkalizes the tissue. And those are pretty important things right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. The alkalization happens instantly. It's kind of, it's almost weird. It's so good. It's of course, you can amplify that with our nutraceuticals like Power C Plus, Cell Detox, Glutathione, Regenerex, and Nutritrala. You can improve the healing of the tissues when you use phospholipids like Nutrifos, Neurogen, Omega Cod Liver Liquid, the Omega Supreme Krill, and Omega Supreme, because you have to heal those phospholipid membranes, which make up most of your body, actually a cell membrane. And the membranes are actually the brains of all the cells, by the way. The way to think of it is every cell, the membrane, I call it membrain, is a liquid crystal stochastic neural net quantum computer. That's a big mouthful, isn't it? And I worked out the mathematics of it. I actually presented it back 32 years ago to a panel of biophysicists. People say Dr. Deagle's weird. I didn't want my stuff stolen, so I haven't published a lot of stuff I've discovered, but I'm going to start publishing it. Under the proviso, I want to make certain I only publish enough so people won't be able to weaponize it. Because I know a lot of things that can be turned into heal people or to cause real havoc. And now we have these technologies like LUMEN photon, somopulse, far infrared sauna, the more powerful pulse magnetic machines. The LUMEN is one of my favorite because it's so portable and it's so affordable. And we have some people all over the world now wanting to get LUMEN pads. And the fact is, once they start using it and find applications, they'll get so many applications. They'll say, I can use this on my sore knee. I can use this on my headache and stop having migraines. In fact, I tell people the first thing to do, bite into a CoQ10, stick a power methyl B12 under your tongue, and slap the LUMEN pad on the back of your head at setting number 7. You're kidding, people will say. I have bad migraines that make me go blind. I said, before you go blind, and you can feel you're getting the fortification striae in your vision, just lean back and put the pad between the base of your skull and the base of your upper thoracic spine, called a C1T1 nucleus trigeminalis. That's that long, thin ventral medial nucleus in the spinal cord that actually regulates the trigeminal ganglion and the autonomic control of the meningeal membranes around your brain. It also regulates the slow motion waves of seizure-like activities that spread from the occipital cortex forward, which you can see on an EEG if you do a fancy EEG evaluation. Which, of course, if you're a natural doctor and you don't know about EEGs, you're not going to know this, or MRI scans, or PET scans, or positron emission tomography scans. You have no idea what we're talking about. So that's what I do, is I integrate all of the very advanced medical and biochemical and genetic into a protocol. And when you use LUMEN, you're starting to alter biochemical processes and gene epigenetics. This is an epigenetic machine. It actually will activate your stem cells. In fact, we know this, it's activating stem cells. We tell people, you want to rebuild a joint? Take our supplements and slap this thing on your knee. Keep it on there for hours every day with Nico setting. They say, you're kidding. I said, that's all I got to do. I said, well, unless you get fragments in the knee, which you can do in a joint arthrogram, or have an orthopedic surgeon go in there and kind of just clean out the junk so it doesn't crystallize and form calcified little micro razor blades. Once you get the junk out of there and we give our nutraceuticals and they buff the joint down smooth, you're going to heal. If you give our LUMEN photon a try along with our supplements, you'd be amazed. Get it today. It'll help you heal and stay well. Back to the Nutrimedical report. And we're going to bring on a very interesting guest. His name is Tom Strader. He is the man who bought out majority rights of the company that makes MAGNESOOPs, and he had a personal story where literally it transformed his life. And I want to give you I'm going to give you my magnesium story. And there's lots of people with magnesium stories. Tom has his own particular story that's quite interesting. I was a resident in family internal medicine at the University of Calgary. Although I'm an American, I was taking training there. I did a year of internal medicine, Vancouver General, then was working in family medicine at the Calgary General Hospital. And my nickname was Dr. Wild Bill because I would jump in, kick out the senior resident, 3 or 4 years ahead of me, that was ready to graduate with their specialty, and I would bump them aside to take over cases in surgery or whatever, in the intensive care unit, burn unit, whatever. And I learned skills, surgical and otherwise, pretty quick. But I got real frustrated when people were dying on me. What the heck are they doing dying on me? I'm supposed to make the guy that's bringing them back from the dead. So I'd be giving them, a subclavian line or a central line and putting in all kinds of electrolytes, zapping their chest with 400 joules of energy until their hair on their chest burnt. And they still would go into course VFib, Vine VFib, and arrest. And then, of course, they went into that terminal phase. They're not coming back. They're going to meet Jesus. So, this is many years ago. We're now talking about the late 70s. So I went back to the library, and being a little bit of an insomniac, I went to the research and found out that Texas A&M was doing heart ligation studies where they'd ligate the heart muscle, and they found out that the heart was depleted with magnesium. I said, aha, maybe maybe these people just have low tissue magnesium, and that's why they can't form. Because I knew that an action potential in the heart and the electroconduction system was requiring a tiny trickle of calcium to come in, but the primary counter-ion to calcium is magnesium. It's not a calcium channel blocker drug, it's magnesium. So to help us kind of understand this whole story, what I did is I started adding magnesium to resuscitate people in the intensive care unit in the emergency department, and I started getting miraculous people back from the dead. Literally, I had one gentleman who fell underneath Windermere Lake in Calgary, and he was literally under there frozen. Literally, his body temperature was down probably, just above, like, turning into a solid block, like planes, trains, and automobiles frozen on the back of the truck. And we got him back after an hour and a half. We warmed him up with a warm cool of blood. We were doing peritoneal lavage of blood through his peritoneum, of fluids. We were doing a warming of his blood. And when I gave him the magnesium, he went from a torsade de pointe, which is a particular type of cardiac arrhythmia, into a bradycardic heart rhythm, and eventually he developed normal sinus rhythm. So magnesium deficiency is the center point, basically, of any ability of tissue not to tolerate stress. So if you're stressed emotionally, physically, radiologically, chemically, due to a pathogen, due to a major anything, accident, injury, you're going to dump magnesium. And, of course, the magnesium is the thing that holds back the wild man of the cell called calcium. There's calcium ion channels. If the calcium gets in your cells, it's like a man with an axe and an attitude. Okay? They're like a cellular terrorist. And the body likes calcium to come in and control it like a delta force, but get it kicked back out of the cell through the ion channels. And if magnesium is 10,000 to 100,000 times more common inside the cell than outside the cell. Now, you can't measure serum magnesium and say that tells you what's going on. So if your doctor is a true knucklehead, he'll measure serum magnesium. He's slightly above the level of intelligence of a bug, but not much, which means 1.1 milligram per deciliter. If your magnesium's lower than that in your serum, your heart's going to stop, but your body's going to rub Peter to pay Paul. So if you've got fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, CNS problems including dementia, Asperger's syndrome, chronic anything syndrome, hepatitis C, Lyme disease, whatever, multiple sclerosis, your magnesium's in your boots. If you've got muscle cramps, insomnia, night sweats, diabetes, magnesium is the first thing you need to crack before you even crack chromium, vanadium, and you start reducing insulin receptors. If you don't fix magnesium, you can't even hold potassium in your tissues. So, Tom, tell us your story and why you bought majority shareholdership or ownership of the MG12, the magnesium company that makes MagneSoothe. And the products that we carry now are the MagneCharge, the magnesium soap, the MagneSoap, and the magnesium oil. We are so excited about these because when people start using them, like the MagneSmoothE, I get a deep tissue massage every week, their body's transformed. It's like my massage therapist, I can tell you how much better my hands feel, she said, from being sore from massaging everybody. And the people that she uses our MagneSmoothE on, it's like a miraculous transformation. Their tissues get the Arnica montana, they get the essential oils, but the most important thing they get is not only the other 76 ionic minerals in the Dead Sea, but they get magnesium. It's the mineral that literally makes plants green. It's literally the mineral that makes living things exist on the planet Earth to convert sunlight into energy for every single thing on Earth, photosynthesis. It's magnesium. That's how important it is. So, Tom, tell us about your story.
I'll be more than happy to. This time, about a year and a half ago, I had gotten to the point with my back that I could hardly walk, and it was in my lower back, in my hips, my buttocks, my right leg, and the sciatica nerve, and it was like a knot. I carried a TENS unit around in my pocket to shock that sciatica nerve. Right. And I was going to chiropractor, kept getting worse, and finally the doctor said, Tom, we need to get a MRI done and find out what's going on with your leg and your back. So,
in case you're getting a spinal nerve recompression from either a tumor like a meningioma or a disc rupture, or some form of inflammatory changes that's occurring around the nerve root that's occurring.
So the MRI revealed that I had a bulging disc at L4 and L5. And so I went back to my neurosurgeon who had operated on me 3 years ago to remove a bone spur in my neck. It was pressing down on the ulnar nerve, and my left elbow and the whole arm throbbed like a toothache, and it also burned. And they ended up removing the bone disc, or the bone spur, and it relieved the throbbing pain, but I still had the numbness in the fingers. And I asked him, I said, well, what's caused these calcium deposits, the bone spurs? He said, well, it's deposits of calcium up and down your neck. And I said, well, what causes that? He said, it's too much calcium in your system and not enough magnesium. So that was 3 years ago when I had that done. And when my back came back, the MRI on my back, I went back to the doctor, and he looked at it and he said, well, we're going to give you steroid injections to relieve some of the pressure and the pain and inflammation. And I had 2 of those done, and they did not help a bit. I was on quite a bit of pain medication. I covered work in 4 states. I carried an empty 5-gallon bucket around by the handle with me to turn it upside down on my job sites just to get the tears out of my eyes and get my breath and continue on. That progressively got worse to the point that I didn't know what I was going to be able to keep going or not. And a good friend of mine at church one day, he looked at me and said, Tom, you're in a lot of pain, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. He said, what is it? I said, it's bulging disc at L4 and L5. He said, what are you going to do? I said, well, the doctors want to shave the disc off. And I said, but I'm not going to do it. And he said, before you do anything else, I want you to try these Dead Sea minerals and Dead Sea products that I have gotten from MagneSoothe, father and son team, down in Townville, South Carolina. And he said, it's turned my life around. He said, I have no more issues with my back, my shoulders, or my neck. And Daniel was in the industrial flooring business, so he was up and down a lot. Right. He said, promise me you'll try this before you go any further. So I did. Got up with Dave and Drew and started using the magnesium chloride, magnesium oil, all the Dead Sea minerals. I would soak in the Dead Sea minerals each night. I also started using the magnesium shampoo, the magnesium soap, the magnesium cream, and I started seeing gradually an improvement in the level of pain that I had. Right. And so after about 4 weeks, I was walking down the hall to breakfast one morning at home, and I noticed I didn't have any more pain. And I thought, well, this is something.
There could be 2 reasons for that. One, you're cured. Number 2, you died and you're in heaven.
And I wasn't quite ready to go to heaven, but I sure was relieved to have no more pain. Right. And so I thought, well, I hope this doesn't change. I hope this pain doesn't come back. And Dr. Giggle, to this day, I have not had any more pain in my lower back, in my neck, or my shoulders. I had also started using it into my neck and shoulders because I had a lot of severe pain in my shoulders. I'm a side sleeper, and it would wake me up when I would be sleeping on the shoulder, and I'd flip over and go to the neck. I thought I had rotator cuff issues. Right. But that relieved that pain as well as I continued. I had a lot of problems with my left eye, the eye lid twitching, and it would just do it involuntarily from time to time. And then I also had a muscle on the left side of my face that would do the same thing. Yeah, those are all signs of magnesium deficiency, by the way. Oh, yeah. I'll give you an example, and I mentioned this. I've had people tell me, says, Doc, my eye twitches only when I get stressed. I said, when you get stressed, if your eye's twitching, your total body magnesium is shot. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, so, and by the way, that's extremely dangerous because I tell people, we're not curing you. We're bringing you into the zone of healing and compensation. When you're in zone of healing and compensation, you can tolerate stress. You don't have a surge of free radicals. You don't have epigenetic switching. You don't have all the bad things that happen.
Call now to get this DVD where millionaires review.
And we're back, and Tom's just going to say adios for now, but he'll be back next Friday. So, Tom, your story is pretty amazing. We need to continue this discussion. Magnesium is really important. I tell people they need to take our magnesium orally as well as topical. Yeah. I like the magnesium oil. The magnesium oil, too, you can use in your bath. Now, I have a quick question for you, though. Can you put it in someone's regular bathtub? Will it screw up their plumbing?
No, it will not. It will not. You've got enough water that flushes through that would flush your pipes. But I would not recommend that you run it through a whirlpool.
Whirlpool. What about a septic field? Is it causing?
No, it won't bother. I live in the mountains, and I have mountain fresh water, and I have a septic tank, and it does not harm it.
Right. In fact, if anything, one of the things we have is I have a thing called Sea Crop, which is made with very similar things. You can actually take the magnesium oil, mix it in your water sprayer to spray around your trees and plants. And if you want your palm trees, like here in Southern California, you want your apple trees, your fruit trees, your other trees to grow, just get that oil, put it in a 5-gallon jug, maybe put 10 ounces in it, spray it around the roots and the bottom of the tree. The tree's going to go nuts. So your rose bushes, your plants, they're going to say, oh my gosh, where'd you get all these minerals?
That's right.
You've got to be kidding. And they're going to do, we did this with our Sea Crop, which is basically similar to their product, but we can do it with the magnesium oil, just the oil. Just put it in the sprayer, 5-gallon sprayer, and the rose bushes and everything go nuts. They literally, I remember when we did it, they all and I have probably 100 rose bushes around the property, and they all bloomed like at the same time. It's like, wow, that's weird. Usually they're in sequence over a period of a year. And all the fruit trees went crazy. They just kind of all of a sudden, fruit just disappeared, appeared everywhere, right? It just appeared. Oh. So what people should realize is that our biology is restrained by our epigenetics. And minerals, this is something very important. That's why NDMEs is so important to bring minerals in, including magnesium. We use our NDMEs, which is 47 on the periodic table of elements. Increases intracellular magnesium, chromium, vanadium, iron, zinc, whatever. To whatever it has to be in order to optimize your health. When you optimize minerals regulate the switching on and off of genes in your cells. The most powerful epigenetic cellular effect is the healthy mineral concentration inside your cells. If you optimize mineral content inside your cells, I'm not talking about serum, I'm talking about in your cells, you can't help but be healthy. It's like nearly impossible to not be able to tolerate stress if you've got adequate levels of magnesium and the other minerals you need. That's now we're going to get into talking about pure water system with Bob Vineyard. But Tom, we'll continue this discussion next Friday. If you want to know more, check out our site with MagneSoothe, which is MG12. We have the MagneSmoothE cream with Arnica Montana, which I use for deep massage. We have the magnesium oil, the MAGNECHARGE, which has bicarbonate, which literally can feel the electrical zzz when you spray it on your body after a shower or bath. We have the MAGNESOAP, which is amazing. I mean, I use it all the time, face, body, whatever. If you want to really do a deep cleanse and stop acne, really get all the toxins out of your system, you want to be using MAGNESOAP. So, Tom, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll continue this discussion next Friday.
Yes, sir.
And now I want to hear from Bob Vineyard. Bob, you're there, right, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Dr. Bill.
I just we had some trouble in the first few weeks getting our radiation station set up, and it's operating perfect. In fact, I can look over at my roll top desk, and I have a monitor over there. If you come to my lab, I call it my lab or my studio, I get all kinds of whiz bang weird things. I got my vertical hyperbaric chamber with oxygen concentrators, pulse magnetic field machines, devices I'm researching from China and from other places in the world like Russia that I may eventually be marketing. All kinds of neat stuff. And one of the things I tell people, one of the most important, is I drink pure water system water. In fact, I have a big, I take and use my soda stream to actually carbonate my water, and I put the soda stream fluid that has no sugar in it, and I have a rod that has magnesium, by the way, it's a magnesium hydrogen rod, so that I'm actually adding extra magnesium, but the base water is pure water system water. And in fact, it's so clean, when you freeze it, it forms funky little spikes on it in the ice tray. And of course, I'm a prepper, so 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I have 2 BEV 300 systems. I've got a BEV 100 I'm changing the filters on for my greenhouse because they're all spruced up now in the next couple of days to put a whole bunch of new plants in there now. It's time for, I call it midsummer planting. And I tell people that if you don't have a pure water system, whether you're living here or Europe or wherever, and we had a gentleman actually was raising his question about the fact he had trouble connecting to his faucet, I said, just send a picture to Bob and send the plumbing specs on the attachment, the faucet attachment, if you can actually get the pitch of it in the direction of the faucet piece, and he can actually probably get a adapter that can allow it to connect to your BEV 100 system. These are really important. People don't realize just how much biotoxins. We have so many reports now, and I'm just going to pull out a few of them on what's going on here. We have, of course, a video, which I'll post up today, between Yoichi Shimatsu, who's a journalist from from Japan, who's actually reporting a lot of time from Korea and elsewhere. He's gone back and forth to Fukushima and has friends there. We have, of course, our own engineer, Chris Harris, who has his recent friend who's actually did a full review right on site of Fukushima Daiichi, and also Chris has been doing work on the similar plants in Korea, doing nuclear safety assessments there, and of course we talked about that on Thursday. But the level of radiation is just nuts. I mean, we look at Alaska. One of the Alaska boat captains has said that talking about Fukushima, given something to do with it, the salmon are not showing up. Many have lesions or worms and parasites. Crabs more easily damaged. A lot of dead catch. Herring, cod, halibut, pollock catches dropping off cliff. The oceans are dying. And people should realize that this is not just going to hit the oceans, it's going to hit people. And you want to stop bioaccumulation of things like cesium. Guess what? The first thing you want to do, you want to top up your magnesium because it's the counterion to cesium-137, and you want to drink clean filtered water, and you want to grow some of your own food that doesn't have radiotoxins in it. Duh. Because the regular powers that be and the knuckleheads in the food and the pharmaceutical industry and the congressmen and senators, don't underestimate their level of ignorance. You know, there was a statement made by Napoleon that said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a massive blunder. Well, even if you interrupt them and you try to tell them otherwise, they think because they're elected that all of a sudden they're smarter than you. They're not. Or they'll be getting another water system thinking, I got a Berkey, I got a this, I got a that. You got to understand, you have to have a pharmaceutical grade level of water detoxification to make sure there's no total dissolved solids. No volatile chemicals, nothing that'll even show up in the distillate on the other side of a distilling system, which, by the way, there's lots of chemicals now that will show up on the other side of the distillate. And you certainly don't want an energy vampire that'll pull water out of the air that takes so much power there's no way you're going to be able to supply the power, especially in a crisis, to get water. You want to be able to take a puddle or rainwater and turn it into cleaner than distilled with very little power. No heat signature. So Bob, tell us about the BEV systems. You have BEV 100, countertop, BEV 300, under the counter, 5-gallon power pressure container for up to 5 gallons of clean water. And it can refill continuously, so you can get 40 gallons more a day. And then a BEV 200 tackle box systems, it literally is a tackle box with a 5-volt pump, a 12-volt pump system that can just really pump it through with the pressure up to 50 psi, and you get cleaner than distilled water, even if you're out camping or if you got a base station, because it's, quote, the end of your world as you know it. You know, there's that long initial T2, whatever it is, the end of the world as you knew it. Or the fact you just want to have it up in your camp. Or you have a solar power system with a 12-volt pump, and you want clean water, but you don't want to end up getting Giardia lamblia from mountain water, and you don't want to get toxic garbage. A lot of people think mountain water is clean. Not necessarily. If it's flowing over an old tailings from a lead mine or a gold mine, and there's all kinds of toxic arsenic and other things, because arsenic often goes with gold, and you're in Montana, you may be drinking water that's laced with a lot of nasty heavy metals. So, Bob, tell us what makes it so superior. What makes the BEV systems and the whole host system so superior in terms of servicing, cost, even the cost of changing the filters out? It's remarkably less expensive, especially because you can service it yourself.
Well, you know, Dr. Bill, we've got the BEV system's unique. The unique thing about our systems is the fact that we put the same technologies together that you find in research and analytical lab systems. I had a fellow call me the other day, and he had spoken to me, 6 weeks back, and we had a long conversation. He wanted to buy a system, and then he asked a lot of questions about the way we put it together, and then I didn't hear from him. And I feel I'm okay with that most of the time, because I know, if they buy something else, they'll come back. They'll find out it didn't work. So he went to another company, and he bought a system, and then he said, well, what about the arsenic in my water? I got a test that shows arsenic. They said, we got an add-on filter for that. So he said,
right.
I've also got some cadmium in my water, so what do I do about that? Well, we've got a special add-on for that. And he said, well, and then the city fluoridates it, so what do I do?
Exactly.